Hey everyone, good evening. Darrell here from the Central Oregon Daily Weather Center. We are about to do a deep dive into your most reliable forecast. Today for April has been pretty nice. Temperatures right on target for this time of the year, and a warming trend is going to bring our highs through the 60s and well into the 70s. But also, we're going to be under a ridge of high pressure. That means more sunshine is expected, and we are looking at more smoke. We are in the thick of prescribed burn season, and you could even smell it at times. In fact, looking at these cameras across Central Oregon, you can see some of that smoke, you can see some of that haze, and it is impacting our air quality. So through the next couple of days, that's still going to be in the forecast, but we also have some other changes, some that you're probably going to like. So buckle up, this is going to be fun. Here's your deep dive and your most reliable forecast, starting with what it looks like right here and right now. And like I said, we could see a lot of that cloud cover out there. Also, we can see some of that smoke and haze. We can also see a little bit of blue. And earlier today, this was the view specifically from the Hinkle Butte camera. And I want to focus on this one because Sisters started off with just hazardous air quality, and it was pretty poor for parts of Deschutes County and Jefferson County around Sisters for a little bit. That has cleared up, but we are expecting more of this smoke to settle and impact our air quality again. So this is how we were sitting earlier today. Now this time lapse starts right around, I want to say 9 or 10 a.m. and it goes for about an hour or two. And we can just see that smoke working its way across the surface. Now once wind speeds picked up and those winds started to shift around to the northwest, we had a couple things happening. First, that smoke started to clear out, and second, more clouds started to roll into the high desert. So just to look at this from a different perspective, here is our air quality map. And the air quality map actually shows this is going to be a loop when it actually pulls up, but it is going to be a loop that shows us what we're looking at when it comes to just how bad the air quality was earlier today. In fact, let me go ahead and stop this and get us seated right because we could actually see where we had some of that poor air quality to start it. And this starts at 5 a.m. and it's very unhealthy air quality at the time around Sisters, Cloverdale, Black Butte Ranch, getting up to Camp Sherman, and through the Cascades and the Santiam Pass. But then that poor air quality stayed with us, worsened a little bit, and through the midday hours, that smoke really started to lift up once those winds swung around to the northwest, picked up some speed, and currently we're sitting in the green for that hourly average is green or good air quality. But when we're looking at some of the real-time sensors from the eSpace Air Quality Network, we do see that a couple of the sensors are yellow or moderate air quality. So let's take a moment and look at some real-time sensors that we're all familiar with. These are the purple air sensors, and they actually show that we are starting to see that air quality worsen just a little bit. And the reason that these are all different is, let's back up one. When you're talking about the DEQ, that is the hourly average. It's the base map that we see here, and the hourly average is what a lot of the recommendations are based off of. But the eSpace air quality sensors, those are an average as well, but it's a 15-minute average, and that updates every 10 minutes, and so it gives us a little bit more of a realistic real-time view of what's happening. The purple air sensors, these are just instant read sensors, and so it shows exactly what's happening within the last 10 minutes or so. No averages needed, and we are starting to see that shift where winds are starting to are still going to be breezy, and it's pulling some of that smoke out of the Sisters area. And remember, the Sisters area is where we had that 171 acre prescribed burn earlier today and earlier yesterday, and today I think it was a 200 or 300 acre prescribed burn. There was another one down near Pine Mountain where there was another prescribed burn. That smoke is actually coming down into Christmas Valley and that part of Lake County, parts of Klamath County as well. But what we see across Central Oregon is, let me zoom into this, we have in Bend several sensors that are orange, so a couple of them that are red, so already moderate to unhealthy for sensitive groups, and a few sensors are already showing unhealthy. And remember, this smoke is coming from a series of prescribed burns not too far away from Sisters, but at the moment, all the air quality sensors in Sisters are sitting in the green. When we move a little further to the south, there's one right around Christmas Valley. It doesn't look like you're starting to get any smoke just yet, and throughout Klamath and Lake counties, it doesn't look too bad. However, that smoke is headed to the south. And we are going to start to see it settle in across Central Oregon later on tonight. And that's going to set us up for another round of poor air quality by the time we start the day. So if you don't already have them on, you might want to get those air purifiers ready if you have them. Now, here through the next couple of hours where we do have some of this smoke, it is reducing the visibility in a couple of our cameras. But when it comes to the ODOT cameras, look at this. These are all cameras from TripCheck, all traffic cameras. They show dry roads, gorgeous conditions, and even when we look up to the passes, we even see a couple of the cameras where there's just blue sky. Look at that Diamond Lake Junction camera. Look at Willamette Pass. No shadows on the ground. Now, what we don't see is any snow off to the side of the road. Now, satellite and radar does have what looks like a few sprinkles showing up. We're going to zoom in. We're going to analyze this live with you because earlier we weren't seeing too much of that showing up. But right now there are some pockets of clearing across Central Oregon. When we look up towards Jefferson County on the east slopes of the Cascades, that's where it looks like there are some sprinkles. Windus is showing up in blue. Look, we're so dry, I don't even think a lot of that is reaching the ground. But there is some sprinkle activity showing up on radar. Now, as we go forward through tonight, we get our clearing. It's going to be chilly. Tomorrow, we warm up through the 50s and well into the 60s. And by Wednesday afternoon, we're talking 60s and partly cloudy. In fact, through Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to be looking at more sunshine than clouds across the high desert. And that's because the ridge of high pressure that's out over the Pacific Ocean, pretty much above my head in this camera shot, that high pressure is building into the Pacific Northwest. And as it builds into the region, it's providing us the 3 S's of high pressure. Sunshine, we're looking at clearing out and only just some PM clouds expected. The second S is stability, meaning that we're not expecting much to develop over the region. And the third one is subsidence. So pretty much the atmosphere is pushing down to the surface, and that can do a number of things. First off, it keeps any development from happening, so we're not looking at any systems developing over the region, nothing really moving in either. But also that subsidence, when it pushes the air mass down, it compacts the air mass. And if you have smoke in the air, in the atmosphere, it's going to push that closer to the surface. So each night as temperatures fall and the vertical column compresses even more because of the colder temperatures, that's where we're looking at the worst of our air quality. That's on par with what typically happens this time of the year during smoke season. But even when it comes to water vapor imagery, there's just some cloud cover over the high desert. It has been partly cloudy to mostly cloudy at times, and some dry air starting to dig into the valley. And that dry air is going to be impacting us later tonight. So when we look at our forecast model, you can expect clearing and calming. By Tuesday, we're starting off, by Tuesday at 11 p.m. Tonight at 11 p.m., mostly clear. And then by Wednesday, there we go, we start off mostly sunny. By the afternoon, some clouds. By Thursday, more sunshine than cloud cover for most of the high desert and no precipitation in sight. Even by Friday, we're staying pretty dry. So when it comes to relative humidity, remember this is all measured in percentages. We're running between 14% and 35%. So that is dry. Moderate on the east slopes of the Cascades, and especially where we've had some of these sprinkles falling and it's been evaporating before it reaches the surface. That's where we have slightly higher relative humidity values. Meanwhile, temperatures, look at this, mostly sitting in the 60s in the last 24 hours. The high temperature has been 67 degrees in Warm Springs. Right now, we're sitting in the 60s with some 50s on the map. Now, that does mean that our temperature isn't, pretty much the temperature change isn't uniform. We're actually running between 7 degrees cooler and 4 degrees warmer than just 24 hours ago. So parts of the high desert have had this slight dip in temperatures, but it's not bad. And tonight, we're falling back into the 30s with some 20s on the map. By tomorrow, we're topping out in the 60s. These mid 60s are going to put us right where we should be for this time of the year. Today, it was seasonable. Tomorrow, it's seasonable, slightly warmer, and then the warming trend really takes shape, especially because we're looking at more sunshine through Wednesday and Thursday, and this high pressure is building into the region. So even still on Wednesday, that high pressure starts, it really continues to amplify. It stretches all the way up and down the coastline, and it starts to build into the other side of the Cascades. So Western Oregon. Once it crosses over the Cascades, we're going to be joining the other side of the mountains with those temperatures that are in the 70s. So by Wednesday, some PM clouds, highs mostly in the 60s. By Thursday, 70s and some 60s. Winds could get mostly down to a light breeze, but they could be picking up at times. And with these 70s and 60s, we're still looking at the potential for some smoke. By Friday, highs mostly in the 70s, that high pressure building into the region and a trough starting to develop. That trough is going to be what brings us that chance of some sprinkles, and it's going to be kind of like how this last weekend we had Sunday and Monday where we had more clouds and a chance of some sprinkles, but nothing really fell. That's what we're looking at going forward. A low chance, some of us getting a little wet, maybe just the nuisance rain where you just have to turn on the windshield wipers every now and then and it doesn't even clear off the windshield. But either way, there is going to be a chance of some showers, and we're going to talk about that here through the next couple minutes. But temperatures go from the 60s into the 70s and stay into the 70s even with that chance of some precipitation this weekend going into Monday. So your forecast model shows that here through the overnight hours we clear out. This is not the high resolution one we were just showing, but it's close to it. And by Wednesday, we're looking at the potential for a few sprinkles through the eastern third of the state. And then by Thursday, more sunshine and clouds. By Friday, more clouds, but still dry. And then here's where it comes in. Saturday and Sunday. Oh, man, it just went to the next model. Sorry, didn't go that far. That's why we have the GFS. It's still there. We're going to get there. And this one is just not as high of resolution forecast model, and it pretty much shows the same thing. Wednesday and Thursday, more sunshine than clouds. Now we're getting to it. By Friday, more PM clouds. And this specific one showed that low chance of a few showers on Friday. I'm not buying that. We might catch a few sprinkles, but I'm still keeping it pretty dry. Then by Saturday and Sunday, some showers are going to be possible. Sunday's a lower rain chance, and then Monday it comes back up. There's also the low potential for a few lightning strikes on Monday. I do have it in the 7-day planner, but it's going to be few and far between. So between now and 11 p.m. on Friday, nada. We're going to be dry. And then through Saturday, at 11 p.m., we're looking at some light showers. Then by Sunday at 11 p.m., not as much widespread scattered precipitation, but it comes back into play by Monday with this specific forecast model. Now, by the time we get to this weekend, all of this could change. And it could be a drier system than it's looking like right now. So we could just be looking at in and out clouds with no precipitation inside. But when it comes to winds, it's not going to be as strong. Right now, those gusts are up to 22 miles per hour. Actual winds are more like 10 to 15 miles per hour, mostly coming out of the north and the northwest. This is that time frame that today we were looking at winds becoming breezy. Tonight, the winds fizzle out almost completely. I'm going to pause this real quick, and we're going to take this little by little because I want to show you something. Through the overnight hours, we're actually looking at winds coming down to a light breeze, or a gentle breeze, pardon me, and swinging around from the west and northwest to the south and southwest. And then early tomorrow morning, that flips around pretty quickly. And winds do become back up to a light breeze by the time we get to the midday and afternoon hours. By the afternoon, breezy at times on Wednesday. So what we're actually looking at is the potential for some of this smoke to pool up during the early morning hours and then start spreading back out. With those winds mostly coming out of the north and northwest, that is going to set us up for the potential of some of that smoke coming down from Sisters where there's still a prescribed burn and into the area. But overnight, as it swings around to the south, it's actually pushing up some of the smoke from the Pine Mountain prescribed burn, or it's just to the west of Pine Mountain. And then by Thursday, a little breezy at times, pretty much the same pattern when it comes to those wind speeds as well. Now, let's talk temperatures. Tonight, we're talking 30s and 20s, very similar to how we started the day today. A cold start. This is seasonable. This is what we expect in spring. But these cold starts and warming days are right on target with what we typically achieve this time of the year. But we're looking at 60s with a few 70s. This actually puts us a little above average by the time we get to Thursday and Friday. Notice through the rest of this week, we warm. By this weekend, some roller coaster temperatures. That's because of a few waves of moisture. Some of those could bring showers, others just sprinkles. Some of us don't even get wet. By Monday, that's that last chance of some showers. And if showers develop on Monday, we could be looking at the potential for a few cells developing and potentially developing some thunderstorm activity, but that's few and far between at this point. What you need to focus on is 60s becoming 70s, maybe some showers or sprinkles by this weekend. So your weather headlines for this Tuesday, April the 28th, chilly starts, pleasantly warmer days, check. Plenty of sunshine and dry, that is happening, and areas of smoke resulting in periods of poor air quality. That's going to continue. And as of right now, some in and out clouds, but clearing is expected tonight. That's the latest in weather. Join us tonight on Central Oregon Daily News. We'll have the latest headlines and your most reliable forecast. See you then.